All right, today we are going to talk a little bit more about mental health and medication. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my journey and my experiences with medication in the hopes that it might resonate with somebody out there. Okay, so in general, I feel like I've been very blessed with a pretty even keeled mind. And I've been blessed with a lot of confidence. I think my parents did a really good job in my upbringing instilling this confidence in me. But I also have like mental health issues on both sides of my family. And going through my graduate program, it was definitely enforced that like, hey, we all have our own crap. Like if you can see it and you can own it and you can deal with it, then you're going to be better off. And so that made me be super self-aware, which has been really good for me. So I realized that like I struggled with some seasonal depression a little bit here and there in those like gloomy months of January and February in Utah, but it never really got to me, never really bugged me. Also, being a therapist, like I have a lot of skills and tools at my disposal and things that I know and that I'm already pretty good about practicing and implementing in my own life. But having babies has changed things. So when I was first pregnant with Maddie, what I didn't know then that I do know now is that I probably started to experience some pregnancy OCD. And I did not even know that was a thing. I always kind of thought that OCD was like, oh my gosh, this pillow has to be positioned just this way or else somebody's gonna die, or like, I need to wash my hands 18 times. And that's not how I experienced it. The way that I experienced OCD, so there are obsessions and there are compulsions. So compulsions is like the repetitive behavior that people do to alleviate the obsession. But the obsession is just like anxiety heightened. And so we were living in Dallas at the time, and I would have these intrusive thoughts about Tom getting murdered. And now, in fairness, like we lived in a really rough part of town, and there were 3 dead bodies that turned up within a block of our house the year that we lived in Oak Cliff. So like in my mind, like the fears weren't totally unfounded, but like we would be pumping gas at the gas station and I'd envision Tom like getting stabbed to death in front of me. And then I'd just like start crying and be like, go away, thoughts, go away. And I couldn't shake the thoughts as well as I usually do. But I didn't realize that I knew it was crazy, but I didn't realize that prenatal OCD was like a thing. So fast forward to having Maddie, I felt a lot of overwhelm. I think every first parent does, right? And I'd read about baby blues. I knew so much about postpartum depression, and I didn't fit the deep, dark postpartum depression. I don't love my baby. I don't bond with her. But I did feel really overwhelmed. Nursing was really difficult for me. And so I remember feeling this panic when she would wake up in the middle of the night, and I just knew the pain that was about to come, and I just felt inadequate and overwhelmed. And so I started to recognize that it might be a little bit of postpartum depression, but I felt so much shame about that. I kind of felt I was failing as a mom because I didn't know how to do everything. I didn't know how to meet my baby's needs perfectly. I just felt inadequate. And I felt like I was failing as a therapist, that I couldn't shake these unhealthy thoughts or these negative beliefs. So I just felt like I shouldn't be able to get depressed. I'm a therapist. I did end up talking to my doctor about it. I got a prescription for medication. I filled it and I never took it because I just had this I don't want to have to need medication. No, I'm fine. I'm fine. And so I just kind of muddled through it. But I realized after the fact, I hear from a lot of moms, ooh, I didn't realize that I had postpartum depression until I was out of it. I remember going to this baby shower one time and just feeling there were all of these other moms there that were so beautiful and so put together and had made this new baby, these hand tie-dyed t-shirts and all of these things. Somebody sewed something, somebody made soap, and I was just I suck. I'm the worst. So fast forward, everything was fine. Before I had Paisley, I had grown a lot and learned a lot and realized that there is no shame in depression. And so before I even had her, I got started in therapy because I knew that postpartum depression was coming. And I told my doctor, like, I know that I get postpartum depression. If I got it before, I'm going to get it again. It's like 90%. Like if you got it with one baby, 90% chance you're going to get it with another. And so I just told her, like, give me the medication now. I'll take it when I need it. And I noticed 5 days after I had her, I had this like incredible group of girlfriends, and we would text all the time and we would always hang out. And I had like sent a text out to the group about hanging out, and it was like an hour later and I hadn't heard back from anybody. And like the negative thoughts of like, oh, nobody likes me. They all think I'm lame. Like I'm the one in the group that nobody likes. I bet they gossip about me. I'm not cool. And I was like, hold on a second, Chrissy, this is not how we usually think. This is not how we usually process. And so even though it's like such a small thing, I knew immediately like my inability to talk myself out of negative thoughts that usually I would be able to talk myself out of, though that's a first sign of postpartum depression. Also looking back, so like when I was pregnant with Maddie, my first, I was like, I had these like unshakable thoughts sometimes about Tom getting murdered. And when I was pregnant with Paisley, I had these unshakable thoughts about my kids getting kidnapped. And then fast forward, so I took Zoloft for 6 months after I had Paisley, and it like literally, you guys, and I know this is not everybody's experience, but truly the next day I felt better. I felt like the fog had lifted and I just felt like I was back. Like I could muddle through those negative thoughts and like fight it out, but taking Zoloft, it was just like, whew, like this is easier. Okay, so I took it with Paisley for 6 months, then went off of it. And then when I was pregnant with London, again, I learned more, knew more, could recognize more. And I recognized those intrusive thoughts when I was pregnant with London as OCD. And I had such a good experience with Zoloft after I had Paisley that as soon as like I recognized those intrusive thoughts, I just got on Zoloft again. So what happened that was like my marker, my trigger, is it was a beautiful sunny day. Everything was great and wonderful in my life, like no predisposing factors or anything. And we were driving, and like no lie, I got into a roundabout. Paisley was singing I Am a Child of God in the back seat. And my first thought was like, oh, that's so sweet. That's just so sweet. And then my second thought is, I hope if she's ever locked and tortured in a dungeon somewhere that she knows that she's special. Like, boom. And then like, so I enter the roundabout, everything's great. I exit the roundabout, and like, now I have this like really traumatizing thought that I'm like trying to push away, trying to use all of my skills and tools. Cause like, I know how to deal with intrusive thoughts. Usually when I'm doing well, like we all have intrusive thoughts, right? But like those intrusive thoughts come back in and it's like, oof, that's scary. Get on out of here, intrusive thought. And I couldn't shake it. And so it was like 2 minutes later, I was like, yep, time to get on Zoloft again. I don't have to fight through this. I could keep using all of my skills and tools, but I don't have to, and I don't want to, because fighting through this is exhausting sometimes. So got on Zoloft, and then I think I got off of it again towards the end of my pregnancy. And then right after I had London, again, like I'm super extroverted. I just like love people and I love babies. And I noticed this time it was like 3 days after I had London, which like in fairness, probably it was just baby blues, but like I knew that postpartum depression was coming. But I remember having this feeling. I had visitors. I think my dad was in town and my sister was in town. And I just remember like I wanted to send everybody away so I could just be alone and cry. So like I had my dad and my sister take my kids and my husband and just like, why don't you guys go somewhere? I just want to be by myself so I can cry. I don't know why I'm crying now. And so I knew at that point that it was, you know what? I don't need medication, but I'll benefit from it. Yes, sweetie. No, not today. So long story short, got back on medication. I was on it for 6 months again, because I kind of just knew like I just need to be on Zoloft until my baby sleeps through the night. And because when I am sleep deprived, it totally impacts my mental health. So did that. I was on Zoloft for 6 months. And then and everything was pretty good. But I have realized the last couple months, like I haven't felt depressed. I haven't felt anxious. I felt grumpy. I would get more annoyed with my kids, more frustrated with my kids. I would get so annoyed with my husband and like super fault finding. And like Tom and I had a conversation probably like 6 weeks ago, and he was like, I feel like you've been like mad at me for 6 months. And I'm like, oh yeah, it kind of happened. And so I kind of realized in that moment, like, you know what, it might be good for me to go back on Zoloft again. In fairness, our house flooded twice. We moved twice. We had a lot of stress going on. And like I run 2 businesses and I'm super busy and I have 3 kids. Like, yeah, there's a lot of stress going on in my life. But I felt again like I was grumpier than usual. And this one's a different experience when I decided to go back on Zoloft, because I didn't feel like I was fighting depression or anger. I just felt like I was on edge all the time. And kind of my thought process was like, you know what? If I am unfairly frustrated with my husband, if I'm unfairly frustrated with my kids, and we'll see if Zoloft can like literally kind of be a chill pill, then you know what? It's worth it. Like, I don't feel like I'm taking it for me this time. I feel like I'm taking it for my family. And my other thought there is like, the tone that I set in my family, the way that I talk to my kids, the way they hear me thinking and processing, that becomes their internal voice. And so if there's something that I can do to make that a more harmonious environment, then like, you know what, I'm going to do it. And again, I have noticed a huge difference. I feel so much more love for my kids. I feel so much more love for my husband, so much more patience. And I'm like, you know what, if Zoloft is my chill pill, I'll keep taking it. And my other thought is, okay, because I was really, really reluctant to taking medication in the beginning. I didn't want to have to need it. And I kind of went through the same thing with migraines. Years ago, I get a lot of migraines, and I would always kind of feel this like, no, I don't want to have to need Excedrin. And my husband was like, Chrissy, modern medicine, like scientists have been working for decades to create the remedy for the exact ailment that you experience. And if you take this medication, your symptoms will go away. Why don't you want to take it? And I was like, yeah, that's dumb. Like, give me the Excedrin. And I kind of realized like I was doing the same thing with medication. It felt like some admission of weakness or something, and like having a good experience. And I know that not everybody has a great experience, but I'm fortunate that I had a great experience with medication. And it's like, yeah, there's a pill that will alleviate what I'm feeling and make things better. I'm going to take it. I feel the same way with childbirth. I know that some people feel this empowerment and like doing natural childbirth. That's not where I want to focus my energy and fighting through things. I would rather focus my energy and overpower different challenges. And it's not wrong either way. Like, but I'm the person that like calls the hospital on my way and I'm like, can you put me on the epidural list? I'd like to get that thing ASAP. Because like, there are no bonus points for going without in my mind. Like, nope. If something can alleviate my pain, then yep, sign me up for it. If it makes it easier, great, I'll do that. Because I do hard things in other areas. So I know that not, like some people really don't want to get on medication and they'd rather try a natural route, and that's totally fine. I'm talking to the moms that might actually benefit from medication, might be able to get over that hurdle and would actually really benefit from taking something and might feel a lot better taking something. And so, you know, I'm kind of scattered and all over the place, but I have realized in my own life that medication is so worth it. All of the things that I was afraid of, that like it was going to make me numb. Once I get on it, I'm going to need it for the rest of my life. Like, I don't think that's true. There has been a little bit of that chatter in the background of like, gosh, I take Zoloft like way more often than I did before. Like now this is starting to become a like always thing. But the other thing is like, it makes sense to me that through pregnancy, when our babies are just like grabbing nutrients and our bodies are never the same after we have babies, it makes sense that our minds are going to be a little bit different too. Like they just don't return to their former glory in some ways. And so if Zoloft helps bridge those gaps, then like, great. I'll take it. I'll do it. It's worth it to me. So if any of this is like resonating with you, if you are realizing that you are muddling through and fighting for rational thinking more than you used to have to, or gosh, like it's getting really exhausting to like try and be happy and positive and optimistic. And if you're using the skills and tools that you have and it just feels like it isn't quite resonating, then talk to your doctor, talk to a therapist. Still work on, it's not like you take a medication and don't have to do anything else. It's almost like pre-workout or something. Like, yeah, you take the pre-workout and it gives you a boost, but like taking pre-workout doesn't mean that you just exercised, right? But like the combination is where the money's at. So anyway, that's my journey. That's my experience. I love Zoloft. I proudly take Zoloft. I will shout it from the rooftops. And I hope that all of you mamas out there can find the help that you need, whether it's just through like managing your own thoughts, talking to a professional, or taking medication. If you need it, there is no shame in it.